I'd like to introduce everyone to Greg Albertson. Greg Albertson from PayPal. So the reason we're doing this is because I wanted to show the world that PayPal is not some big, gigantic, faceless payment machine, and they're actually real people who understand e-commerce and the struggles that you guys have and the questions that you have need to be answered. And the burning questions that you've ever had about PayPal will be answered today. We're going to talk about some of the new products that are coming out, and really talk about why, in my opinion, PayPal, if you can incorporate it into your business flow, is important to you as an e-commerce product owner. Greg, why don't you give yourself a quick introduction, tell everyone who you are, what you do, and how you're here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the floor, Matt. Again, Greg Albertson, been with PayPal a little over 5 years now. It's been an amazing time in a few different capacities, mainly as a checkout specialist here and an account executive. So realistically, just working hand in hand with our demographic and our merchant base to help them grow their organization, expand their e-commerce presence, drive bottom line revenue. Overall, whatever we can help with in terms of e-commerce functionality, we're here to help with. So like you said, Matt, I think you hit the nail on the head. Not a big faceless corporation that's publicly traded on the stock exchange that you can't get in touch with anybody, right? I saw one of the Q&A questions is, hey, can you drop in your contact information? Can I reach out to you to set up an account, or at least have a conversation about our organization where we can go back and forth with the goals and initiatives that you may have for 2025 and beyond to see what solutions, what we can implement to help you get there. So that's a little bit of background on me.
Wonderful. So let me start this off right away by saying I've done an analysis through a multitude of companies that are using PayPal for both initial product sales and subscriptions. And these are typically hard good products. I just did a 60-day look back on a pretty decent volume client, and their initial approval rate on PayPal Commerce, and that's what we're going to talk about today, not just regular PayPal Express PayPal, is 99.06%, and their rebill approval rate is 93.99.
Awesome.
This is the part in the conversation where you guys say, holy shit, and tell me that your Stripe account or your Adyen or your other accounts are doing that. And yes, Cloud, the recording is going to be available after the meeting. So let's start with Patrick Ingram had a question. What's the best way to increase your monthly capacity with PayPal? I don't believe you guys have a cap. Do you?
We do
not.
Are
there some accounts where you will cap it? Some accounts you won't? I believe it's just open, right?
It's a great question, Matt. Yeah. So overall, we service small to medium-sized businesses all the way up to large enterprise corporations. So there realistically is no cap on the potential of processing volume per se. But where we get that question a lot is, with release amounts and monthly volume coming in. Where we see some processes becoming cumbersome is just brand new accounts, right? They're new to PayPal. They've never processed with us before. We need to learn their business model, their risk thresholds, etc. So in a sense, let's say you getting started up and maybe you're an existing business that's migrating volume over to PayPal, like you're talking about, Matt. Yeah. That's where we would just take a look at what your current volume is, right? We're going to account for 10 to 15% growth, and we're going to set an appropriate risk threshold where you're going to have instant access to those funds. Where we see, some holds or some caps getting in place is simply around risk. We want to make sure not only we're protecting our merchants, but we're protecting ourselves as well. So no, there is no cap on how much you can process on a monthly or annual basis. If you currently are listening to this meeting and you have a PayPal account where you experienced any holds, you experienced a cap on how much you can process on an annual or monthly basis, I want to hear about it. Please reach out to me via email. Let's have a conversation via Zoom, Teams, Google Meets, whatever it may be. Meet face-to-face in this virtual environment. And let's get down to the bottom of it and see what we can do to help you out.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, we have a wonderful expanded relationship with the PayPal team. We're on calls with them at least weekly. We're working through some of their new product lineup. So let's talk about that. Everyone is familiar with PayPal, PayPal Express. They launched about a year and a half ago, PayPal Commerce. It was a little buggy when they first launched the beta, but all those bugs are worked out. And that also includes credit card processing, Venmo, ForPay, BNPL, buy now, pay later, like all types of really cool things. And, just the ability to take your customers um, through that credit card. I think when people see PayPal, at least me, and you can see everyone knows me, I'm a little bit older. If I see PayPal, it's the first thing I click. I don't want to pull out my credit card. I don't want to have to do any of this stuff because I know that it's secure and I know that they're going to take care of me on the transaction side. And it goes right from my bank account. I don't have to worry about it. Or I can use it, I can select my credit card and make the payment. But there's also a new product we're going to talk about in a little bit called Fastlane. And I know Greg didn't want me to bring it up, but I'm bringing it up. We're going to talk about Fastlane. But so we're going to jump right into this. We're going to talk about the current landscape of e-commerce for the merchants and some of the pain points that you might be seeing. So let me just jump right in and say, what are some of the examples of pain points merchants are currently facing in today's e-commerce landscape?
It's such a good question, Matt, because there's so many different routes you can go down. As you understand, being a business owner and being in the e-commerce space, e-commerce is very complex. There's a lot of different routes you can go down, but I think we can drill this down to generalize about 3 pillars that we can focus on in terms of, where we're seeing the most pain or where my conversations on a daily basis with our merchants go to when it comes to what we can help them solve. I think, especially as we lead up into Cyber Monday, into Black Friday, the one thing that merchants that I'm talking to are very concerned with is cart abandonment and checkout conversion. So that's going to be something we'll touch on a little bit more and how we're solving that issue. The second pillar being having to use multiple vendors for checkout for e-commerce functionality, right? So you can think about it this way. You have digital wallets across the board. You have PayPal, you have Venmo, you got Apple Pay, you have Google Pay. If you need to outsource and use multiple integrations to have Apple Merchant Services, to have Google Merchant Services, there's 2 accounts right there. Then you have a PayPal integration. That's a 3rd account. Now we get down into debit and credit card processing. Some of the merchants that I'm talking to actually have 2 different companies doing one job when it comes to credit card processing. They have maybe a merchant service through a bank being the processor, and then a gateway also in the mix. So being able to have a one-stop shop or a consolidated one integration that you're able to do to an e-commerce site where you have one source of truth or one portal you can log into for reporting, for offering financing options, for offering consumers preferred payment methods for digital wallets. I mean, it makes it a breeze and just creates efficiencies internally for your organization. That way you can use that bandwidth that you're saving in other aspects of the business. Maybe it's putting more effort into marketing. Maybe it's putting more effort into customer retention, whatever that may look like. And then I would say the third and final one we can touch on in these 3 pillars would be authorization rates, like you were talking about in the beginning, Matt. That is very important to a business's bottom line in a sense of making sure that you're able to accept good customers or verified customers' transactions while continuously blocking bad actors from transacting on your website, keeping that authorization rate as high as possible, and then mitigating the opportunity to have fraud losses. So I would say those are the 3 big pillars there, Matt, that we're seeing on a daily basis.
So how would you suggest that we help merchants navigate through some of those pain points that you've mentioned?
Yeah, so we'll go in order here just to keep the conversation fluid. When it comes to cart abandonment, let's talk about our relationship with Checkout Champ and PPCP, right? You're able to leverage a PayPal branded experience that's been enhanced, that's been revamped, where you now have a one-click checkout option where you don't even need to remember your password to log into PayPal, right? I can send you a 6-digit code. You type that in. You're simply verifying that the shipping address is right. Maybe I do want to use my bank, or I want to use a credit or debit card. Check that box off, and now we're hitting pay now. So it's streamlining the way your consumers have an experience when they're going to purchase a product on your website, and it's creating a faster checkout experience. And that's where we're seeing a reduction in cart abandonment, which is then inversely correlated to checkout conversion, right? So we're going to increase checkout conversion by decreasing cart abandonment. And we're doing that, simply put, by speeding up the time it takes to go from landing on an e-commerce page, viewing a product, and then finally clicking that pay now button. So I think that's one way that we're able to kind of combat cart abandonment. The other is actually giving your consumers their preferred way to pay. What's
Oh no!
Here?
There he is.
You got me, Matt?
Yeah.
All right.
Where are you? The local library on their 25 megabyte per second.
I mean, I guess the Wi-Fi cut out. I'm not sure. It's a beautiful day
that's all
here,
right.
so we'll continue to pick it up. But
All right,
again,
keep
going
going.
back to preferred payment ways, I mean, what we see with our internal studies and PayPal's internal data is 55% of the users or that we've surveyed on PayPal, if they don't see PayPal when they go to a checkout page, they're abandoning cart. That's over half of the consumers using PayPal right now, that if they're going to a website and they're not seeing a PayPal button, that they're simply going to abandon the cart and potentially go to, hopefully not, but go to a competitor that does offer those alternative payment options that they prefer to pay with. And I thought that stat really stuck out to me, and kind of just really exemplifies the power of our brand recognition, right? Especially if this consumer is brand new to your site and they've used PayPal in the past, they're basically coming on and understanding, okay, I haven't purchased from them, but I know my data and information is secure when I'm using PayPal. I'm going to go through with this purchase.
Well, let me make
So,
2 points on that. I feel that same way. If I go to a site and I don't see PayPal on there, I'm like, this is a fly by night. I'm never going to get my product. Right. So that's number
yep.
one. But you're talking about never getting your product. How many of you, I don't need to see a show of hands, but how many of you have experienced someone's trying to buy with a credit card and they put in the wrong, shipping address? If you're not using shipping address verification through your site, where PayPal, 100% of the time, they have the right address in there. So you know that when it goes to your fulfillment company, that it's going to be delivered to that customer. So those are 2 points I want to make on that. So let's talk about auth rates.
Yeah. Yeah, right now, just overall with our brand new product, right, with PPCP, and I don't want to call it brand new. It's definitely been out for a few years, but we've been enhancing this product, especially in 2024 under Alex Chris's presence a lot, right? We've been coming out with new technology. We've been coming out with new features. And again, I'm going to refer back to some internal stats that we have just in the US right now with merchants that are leveraging PPCP, especially our partnership with you guys at Checkout Champ. What we're seeing is authorization rates are increasing just by using this gateway by 4.8%. So again, going back to some of the other merchants we're already working with on your platform, if we're looking to take them from an 88 to a 92, we have the ability to do that with our new solution, PPCP. So that's definitely one way we're helping increase auth rates overall with just our revamped gateway and integration with our one-stop shop of PPCP, but also our fraud protection tools. Again, kind of going back to what I alluded to before, we're able to leverage our two-sided network. Again, PayPal processes 20 billion transactions a year. It's about a quarter of the world's payments. We allow our merchants to leverage that data in our fraud protection services. That way, again, we're blocking bad actors, but keeping authorization rates high by allowing verified customers to come through to the site and not getting caught up, I would say, for a lack of a better term, in our fraud filters or in our chargeback protection filters, et cetera.
Yeah, and that answered a question from an anonymous attendee. Come on, guys. Anonymous. All right. But he was asking, are there any chargeback protection tools, partner tools for PayPal?
Yeah, and there definitely is. When it comes to mitigating fraud, PayPal looks at it in two different ways, and it really depends on the merchant's needs and the wants, and maybe where they're seeing fraud at the current moment, right? Are they seeing a lot of item not received disputes? What about card not authorized disputes? So we can look at this in two different facets. We could take a proactive approach with fraud filters with our fraud protection standard, or even better, fraud protection advanced, just depending on how granular or detailed that this merchant needs to be with fraud filters. So for example, it could be as easy as, like you were talking about, Matt, AVS, CVV. PayPal also gives every transaction a risk score. So if you want to set your risk filters or your risk threshold to a certain amount, it goes above that threshold, we're declining that transaction for you, right? But if we talk about fraud protection advanced, this is where we can really get granular for organizations that need it. And when I say that, I mean blocking IP addresses, zip codes, specific card numbers, having rules set in place to manually review transactions to keep those authorization rates high. So absolutely. And again, I'll shout this out. Please reach out to me if there's any questions about the fraud solutions that you currently have in place, that you're looking to implement something a little bit better, or you need that more granular look at what these transactions look like. I'd be happy to do that evaluation with you. But yeah, absolutely. We have a variety of different risk as a service solutions that have been helping our merchants.
All right. Speaking of which, I just dropped to everyone in the webinar chat Greg's email address. If you have any questions direct for him, please pass that on. So let's talk about multiple vendors at checkout. How do you handle that?
So one big way we're handling it is the release of PPCP in a sense, right? Especially on platforms like Checkout Champ. It's a one-stop, one integration option that gives you not only the digital wallets or APMs that consumers use in today's environment, but like you're saying, also encompasses that next piece, which is credit and debit card processing, right? You're not needing to outsource to Apple. You're not needing to outsource to Google to get merchant services accounts to offer those payment options. You're not needing to outsource to a different processor and or gateway to process credit and debit cards. So one thing we're doing with PPCP is simply creating internal efficiencies there when it comes to multiple vendors. Again, freeing up your internal staff to really focus on bottom line revenue generating activities. So when it comes to multiple vendors, this PPCP integration across platforms is going to give you the flexibility to offer everything under the sun in all reality, right? So PayPal, Venmo, our pay later financing options, which we'll dig into a little bit, Matt, credit and debit card processing, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and if you're looking to expand into international territories, we have what's called LAPMs or local alternative payment methods. You can think about Ideal if you're expanding into the Netherlands or things of that nature. So
Ideal, so forth, SEPA, big Netherlands, Germany, all those.
Yeah. Yep.
And that brings up a great point. It's not just US, you guys, you're international. So if you're planning on selling into UK, Europe, other countries, or you already are, this is a great solution. So you're not running around scrambling to find, different merchant accounts for different territories.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And that also talks about, all the different markets we're in. We're in 200 plus markets, and we're able to accept and hold 130 plus currencies, right? So when you're looking to expand internationally, we give you that flexibility without having to migrate to different accounts.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that you guys have buy now, pay later, Venmo, Apple, Google, or Don, all the other APMs that you would need.
Real quick, Matt, if we can swing back to authorization rates for just 1 second, I had one more point there that I wanted to bring up, especially when it comes to any recurring or subscription payments. We have a really cool solution called Real-Time Account Updater. It kind of blends in and leverages our card network partnerships, right? So for example, let's say I have a subscription-based business or most of my transactions are recurring, right? The biggest worry for me is what happens when this customer's card expires or it's not valid anymore. Do I have to give them a bad experience by making them log back into their profile, update their card information, and then renew the subscription? No, not with Real Account Updater, right? Real-Time Account Updater. What we're able to do is actually proactively reach out to our partnerships at the card network. For example, if this card's about to expire, we're going to be able to update that for you proactively. That eliminates that bad experience for your consumer to have to go back into their subscription profile, update the card. Maybe they didn't get their product or service that month because they weren't unaware it was going to expire that month, etc. So I wanted to make sure we touched on that too before we moved on.
Fantastic. What about anything else you want to touch on about multiple vendors at checkout?
One more point. Like you were talking about, PayPal is
by the
widely...
way, you charge. Just a question just came in before we go to that.
Go ahead.
Do you charge for your account updater service?
So it depends. Yeah, it depends. What I would say is if that is something that one of your merchants or anybody on this call is interested in, again, reach out to me. Let's have a conversation. It can be bundled. It can be an additional fee. It all depends, again, on the merchant's needs. We at PayPal are very flexible in a sense of how we bundle packages and protections when it comes to having PPCP and real-time account updater and fraud protection advanced or chargeback protection, et cetera. And that kind of does segue into what I wanted to talk about with multiple vendors is PayPal is more than just a yellow button on an e-commerce checkout, right? We're going to be able to be an all-encompassing suite of products for you, even if you're a service-based business that's sending out invoices or taking payments over the phone, or maybe even going to events in person, right? We have in-person readers that'll keep your payment options congruent across e-commerce platforms to in-person, right? Give your consumers the same experience when it comes to checking out, regardless of where they're doing it. If it's online, awesome. They have the same options they have online as they do in person. So again, not just that yellow PayPal button on the website like we've been known for, but so many other solutions, risk as a service, in-person PayPal Zettle readers, chargeback protection, invoices, over the phone payments. I mean, you name it, we could do it.
All right. A question came up while we're going through that. I used to use PayPal through its Shopify integration. In order to integrate it with Checkout Champ, I believe I need a different type of PayPal account. Is that correct? It must have been the old PayPal, and we're trying to move everyone over to PPCP right now, PayPal Commerce platform.
Even so, would not need a new PayPal account. So how we do it is there's different solutions that can be enabled in any one PayPal business account or merchant services account. So for example, if we're talking about our kind of legacy product with PayPal Pro and you're looking to go over to PPCP, no need for a new account. Same thing if you're changing actual e-commerce platforms. So for example, if you're using PayPal on Shopify right now, and then you're also looking to use PayPal on Checkout Champ, we can use the same account unless you want to separate reporting, etc. So no is the answer. You would not need to create a new PayPal account.
Okay. Let's talk about expanding the global reach and how can merchants effectively expand globally with your support?
So I think the biggest asset we have is our brand recognition, right, Matt? We can, you see PayPal on the website, you have more trust in that website being a new consumer. And again, with our internal studies, we'll say that a lot, but when it comes to the PayPal user share, we have 82% of the market at this point. So we are the most used online payment service in the US currently, when it comes to the consumers that we've surveyed. So in a sense, when you're coming to the website, or if you're looking to expand and you're going into new regions where you don't have existing customers that have purchased from you in the past, you're coming on, if you only have a credit and debit card option, that's going to take somebody aback, right? They're going to say, okay, do I feel comfortable keying in all my credit card information, not knowing if I'm going to get the product, not understanding if this site is secure by any means or encrypted? That's where PayPal comes into play, right? So again, being not only that, but being available in so many markets, people are accustomed to seeing that PayPal option. It gives your brand more recognition. It gives that sense of security that consumers need to see on the site when it comes to finalizing that purchase. So they could go through the entire checkout, they get down to the end of the page, and especially in the digital day and age we live in, if they have to go and grab a card from their car, they have to go downstairs and grab a wallet, that's going to increase cart abandonment. That's not going to help out at all. So that brand recognition is the first thing I want to touch on there. And then diving into what we talked about a bit already is, again, 200 plus markets that we're in already, continuously expanding. 130 plus currencies that you're able to not only accept, but hold inside your PayPal account. And according to a study done by Consumer Reports, we're rated #1 in privacy, transparency, and security. So people value what we do from a customer service side, not only on merchant services, but on the consumer side as well, with the security and brand recognition we provide. The other thing I'll talk about when it comes to increasing your global reach and presence is a net promoter score. Really helps with search engine optimization, get your site and your information bumped up on a Google results or any search engine results. So again, with our internal data, we're seeing an increase of 24 points when it comes to net promoter score just by adding PayPal to the checkout. So if you think about it in layman's terms, if you have a similar business model to a competitor and your business has PayPal, all else equal, you should be able to rank higher on a search result or a search engine than that competitor simply by having PayPal on the checkout.
Excellent. So a couple of questions came up, and I was actually going to get to this in a little bit later, but why not jump into it now? Does PayPal accept nutritional supplements for the U.S. markets?
It's a great question. We would nutritional supplements, depending on the verbiage on the site. would be considered a high risk vertical for us, but we do have merchants that sell nutritional supplements, and we partner with e-commerce brands that specify in that business model. So it is a possibility. What I will say is we would simply go through a pre-vetting process, right? We want to ensure that your chargeback ratio is under the acceptable range. We want to ensure that there's not an inherent risk on bringing on your processing volume. But overall, again, let's have a conversation about it. Let's look into the business, see what the historicals look like. We'd be happy to partner with you as well. So yes, we do have a lot of merchants in that nutritional space. Again, being that it is a bit of a high risk industry, depending on that verbiage, we want to make sure we go through the necessary approvals and processes to get you up and running, but then you'll be good to go.
Let's talk about others. Telemedicine. That's a growing, legitimate vertical. You've seen Hims and Roman
Absolutely.
and products. How does PayPal feel about those types of verticals?
I think we can, and I don't want to say we would lump everyone into kind of that high risk vertical, but it really just depends on business to business. It's very unique in our space. We would never simply turn somebody down that says, hey, I'm going to sell nutritional supplements, or I'm in telemedicine and I do X, and we're going to blatantly say no. What we always do with any new business account is we will go through that vetting process and ensure that we would be a good partner for them, right? We want to ensure that the results that they're looking for when it comes to their initiatives or their growth in term 2025 and beyond, that we're going to be able to help them get there and not take on any inherent risk that we don't want to. So again, it would realistically just be looking at the business as a whole, some of the financials, making sure that they're below that acceptable use for disputes and chargebacks, and then we would kind of be off to the races. So telehealth, nutrition, anything that maybe would be deemed high risk vertical, we would still take on and say, let's go through this process. Let's see where and if we can help, and if it's going to be beneficial to both parties. And then we'd be good to go.
Great. Well, let's go back to expanding the global reach before we jump into some of these questions, and I will get to all of the questions here. In what way does PayPal assist merchants in handling international transactions such as multi-currency support and compliance?
Absolutely. Two things that we haven't touched on yet with international is well, we touched on it a bit, but the local payment methods I think is huge. Again, it's giving your consumers in a region you're not familiar with their local payment methods that they use on a daily basis, right? Like we're talking about with Ideal or Ban Contact in Belgium. So we have this flexibility within that one integration within PPCP to say, okay, are we expanding into the EU? Are we expanding into Canada, into South America? Are we expanding into other parts of Asia, et cetera? So we have these local payment options again that give your customers a sense of security because they've used these payment methods already. That's the thing. So the other thing I'll talk about, especially if you're expanding into the EU, is 3D Secure. Now, we don't bring that up too much in the US just because credit and debit card verification don't use 3D Secure as much. It is very popular in the EU. So again,
Actually,
ability to
you say popular, I'll say required.
Yeah.
It is a 100% requirement in the EU. And let me also mention, it's probably something I need to talk to the other part of your team about, but we just finished, and we're going to actually have a conversation about this, guys, in 2 weeks from today about 3RI, which not only secures the initial transaction, but all the recurring subscription transactions through the 3DS network. So we'll talk about that later, but yeah.
I saw your post this morning on that.
Yeah, it is required in Europe for credit card transactions. So
and easily enabled through PPCP. So another thing about international reach, right? You don't need to outsource to anybody else to ensure you're running through a CCDC verification with 3D Secure if you are selling into the EU. Can do PayPal.
Wonderful. All right. A few other questions have popped up. Do you have someone who can review accounts before banning? In the past, accounts just got closed with no explanation. I would think if you have an account manager and you're having an issue, you can go through that. I think, Chris, what you're asking is, people that sign up, they just go to paypal.com, open up an account, and then off they go. I would think that there could be a better review process if you have a live account manager. And the other thing that I want to bring up to you is that we've seen is the chargeback process. It seems like if a merchant or a consumer files a chargeback, it regardless of what evidence you have that the consumer purchased, PayPal always seems to lean towards the consumer on that. Is that true? Is that a true statement?
It's tough. I think every individual chargeback or dispute case is unique in and of itself. Now, again, we can talk about chargeback protection and how we can completely cover you for most of what we're seeing in today is the most common disputes and chargebacks that we see. But overall, what we do is provide a transparent process, right? So let's say a consumer does issue a dispute and they want to turn it into a chargeback and get their money back. And maybe you did ship them the product was correct, everything is clear on your side that you have evidence this is a verified transaction, but they still issue that dispute. The transparent process that PayPal provides to not only its merchants, but its consumers as well is basically being able to go right into your PayPal business account or personal account, see that live case open and see the comments, notes from a merchant, see from the consumer. So you actually get insights into why this dispute is being issued, whether it's item not described, item not received, unauthorized transaction. I think my card got stolen. I didn't authorize this, etc. So in a sense, yes, chargeback protection is going to cover against the two most common ones, but overall, I wouldn't have a say in which way we would lean either way. But we provide a transparent process that allows both parties to submit evidence and a third party intermediary in PayPal to say, okay, this is a legitimate dispute or it is not. So I couldn't say either way, Matt.
Okay. All right. We're going to jump into some of the questions, but I want to get through some of the questions that I had for you because maybe it will answer a lot of this. But what trends are you seeing in the industry that merchants should be aware of when it comes to whether it be industry or holiday readiness, whatever that might be?
Yeah, that's a great question, especially with Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming up. I think the two biggest things, one is going to be mobile checkouts in a sense of digital wallets, in a sense of, having mobile checkouts being on the rise. You have to adapt your website or e-commerce platform for mobile usability.
Yeah.
First and foremost, right? If I'm on a mobile device, I'm on your website and I'm shopping and I have to transfer over to a desktop version, or I'm using my index fingers on my little iPhone and I'm trying to zoom in on something, it's just not going to work. Somebody's going to abandon cart. They're going to go to a different site that is optimized for mobile use to go ahead and purchase a product there simply because it's easier, right? Speed to checkout is imperative in today's day and age, right? You can think about Amazon Prime. I can order something right now, Matt, and get it delivered to my door probably by the end of the day. That's the speed at which our consumers are wanting to check out on e-commerce as well. So it's actually funny you bring that up. I was reading an article on a website called wwd.com where they shared multiple statistics about how mobile checkouts are on the rise in a sense. And I can get into a different statistic about Capital One shopping as well down the line. But I think that's the first thing we want to talk about is, are you optimized for mobile use? Do you have digital wallets on the website? That's going to be the biggest thing, especially leading into a holiday shopping season, that you want to make sure you're capturing as much revenue as possible and decreasing cart abandonment as much as possible as well.
All right. So I'm going to answer a question that was asked. How many merchants on Checkout Champ are currently utilizing other payment services over PayPal? What I would say is we see that 100% of the companies, as it stands right now, have PayPal and some other merchant processing. We've got to remember, a lot of people are coming over. They have a Stripe account or, Adyen account, whatever it might be. So they have two merchant accounts at least, and I'm considering PayPal one of those merchant accounts. So there's a new product that is being rolled out that some of you may have already experienced. It was in beta and it's just now out of beta, called Fastlane. Now, Fastlane is interesting, and I don't want to steal all your thunder, Greg, but why don't you go ahead and explain what Fastlane is and how powerful that tool is?
Oh, I can give a great overview, but I would encourage everybody to go and search Fastlane by PayPal. We have a lot of documentation. We have a lot of merchants that are running on Fastlane with great results. But overall, basically what Fastlane is, Matt, we've leveraged our two-sided network. Again, about 40 million active merchant accounts, 400 million plus active consumer accounts. We've leveraged that data together to provide what's called an accelerated checkout experience for our merchants. What that means is when a consumer is coming to your website, right? Maybe you're asking for an email, etc. With that email address they're typing in, we're going to give them the ability to accelerate their checkout by auto-populating their card information, shipping address, billing address, contact info, right? So how we do that is we recognize that this email and a vaulted financial instrument has been used on our network in the past. We, again, offer that passwordless authentication code, 6 digits, to be texted to your phone. So you can think about it. You type the email in. We recognize it's been used on our network. We have a light box that pops up that says, hey, do you want to be accelerated through this checkout, Matt? Type in the 6-digit code we just texted you. You type that in. Again, in about under 5 seconds, you're going to have all that.
You keep saying type it in. It just pops up on your phone through SMS. You click it, it auto-populates. But yeah, go ahead. Continue.
If you're on a desktop, yeah. If you're on a desktop, you're typing it in from the text. But yes, if you're on your phone, very easy, especially on an iPhone, to click it, it types in for you. But overall, again, speeds up that checkout time. It's reducing the friction at checkout, or like you're talking about, Matt, that manual effort where maybe I just keyed in the CVV wrong and I got to decline. I got to do this all over again.
Yeah. All right. So a question came up. I'm in a nutraceutical vertical, nutritional supplement vertical, and we've processed transactions on PayPal through Shopify. Should I reach out to you, Greg, to set up a PPC account and transition the integration with Checkout Champ? I would think the answer would be yes. Again, everyone, I dropped in the chat Greg's email. That would be a great starting point, is to talk to Greg and figure out how we can get that set up and moved into your Checkout Champ account.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, coming back to that initial question, Matt, we don't need to create a new account for you. You don't have to go through that process, right? We will be able to enable PPCP on that current account you're using on Shopify. And then we'll work with Matt and his team to get you integrated on Checkout Champ. So please, yes, feel free to reach out to me.
Okay. Do you see a lot of merchants using the 4-pay option? Has the adoption been significant? And when you look at like Klarna and some of the other services out there, I'm just curious.
Yeah, we see a large adoption, especially with Pay in 4, right? With Pay in 4, it's being a big proponent of our suite of financing products. I think is our most popular one is Pay in 4 for no interest free payments. Giving the flexibility of your consumers to come onto the site and say, okay, let's say we're selling retail products. I really like this pair of shoes, but if I'm paying in full, I can't get that t-shirt as well. Not right now, maybe in a few weeks. What we're giving them the ability to do is simply say, yeah, I can actually add that additional product service to the cart and check out and have the ability to pay over time. And what we're seeing, especially with our pay later messaging being presented upstream on the checkout, that way your consumer actually has visibility into, okay, I don't need to pay in full right away for this purchase. I will have the ability at checkout to go ahead and finance this after just 90 days of having pay later messaging on a website, whether it be on a product page, on a home page. We're seeing a 3.8% lift in overall PayPal sales just by presenting that messaging upstream, giving them the flexibility and the understanding that, no, I don't need to pay in full for this purchase at the end of the checkout. I will be able to finance. And that's just according to our internal data.
Well, and let's just talk about the state of the nation right now with interest rates and inflation as high as they are, and people just getting killed in all aspects of everyday living. When it comes to Christmas time, they still want to, buy these gifts. Doing a 4-pay option where over a period of time they can pay it off allows them to leverage that buying power to get the gifts for the loved ones the same way they had in previous years before.
Things are more expensive, simply put. I think we all understand that. Yeah, exactly. So like you're saying, it just increases their purchasing power, right? Gives them the ability to have that Christmas morning that they've been dreaming about, right? If I wanted to get my son that bike, I wanted to get my daughter that Barbie set, whatever it may be, you have the ability to do it, even if you don't have the finances right now. So yeah, the other thing I'll say on the merchant side for buy now, pay later, or just any of our pay later services, with our internal statistics, especially with pay in four, that financing solution has been increasing merchants' average order value by 2x. Right. And it's simply because you have the messaging upstream, you're giving them the knowledge that they won't have to pay in full for this. So they're adding more products to the cart. Right. So instead of the $200 pair of shoes, we're also getting a few t-shirts, and now the checkout's $400. And that's simply helping our merchants drive bottom line revenue.
That's right. And they're paying $100 a month rather than, $400 right now coming out of their bank account or their credit card. All right. So with the holiday season approaching, now that we're talking about this, how can we help the merchants enhance fraud protection and security for their online sales?
Perfect. Yeah, we can swing back and go into detail now about these services. So again, it depends on the approach a merchant wants to take and whether they are seeing fraud right now or they're not. It doesn't matter. If you want to take two ways to look at it, we can take a proactive approach at mitigating fraud, or we can look at a reactive approach when it comes to helping you cover chargebacks and disputes. So let's talk about the proactive approach a bit. That's where we're going to implement fraud protection standard, fraud protection advanced if we need to get granular. But these are filters that are, again, going to block the bad actors coming from the site, where we've seen this card on our network be used for multiple disputes or chargebacks or declines in the past. We're also able to decline it for you. That way we don't give you a headache down the road. But again, we've seen verified transactions. We've seen successful transactions on this card or this PayPal account. We're able to accept it for you, right? And it's not hitting those filters. So
you're actually watching the trends of specific PayPal user accounts, and if they are habitual disputers,
bad actors,
you'll fit. I mean, the reality is, especially when COVID hit a couple of years ago, I don't mean to remind everyone of that. I'm not going to use any cuss words here, of that horrible period in our lives. It appeared that people were using the dispute and chargeback mechanism as a way to offset their loss of income, right? They were buying stuff from merchants and they're like, screw them, I'll just charge it back. They don't care about you. They just want to make sure that that money's not coming out of their account. I think what Greg just explained is a great way that they can help you manage those disputes through the network. And a question came up about this. If a PayPal merchant refunds every single time on a dispute, does that ensure it can't become a chargeback? And is there some kind of limit on how many refunds you can do per month?
It's a great question, actually. Well, thank you for whoever asked that. No limit on refunds. Patrick, thank you. Thank you, Patrick. No limit on refunds. I mean, you have to refund 100% of the transactions you accept that month. You have to do it. No limit there. Now, if we're talking about dispute and chargeback ratios where these are legitimate chargebacks, that's a different story, but save that for another conversation. But no, there's no limit on refunds at all. And if you're refunding a transaction, does not turn into a chargeback, right? To go back to the first question. So yeah, you can alleviate that headache. And again, if you've shipped the product, they've received it, a lot of the things that we're seeing on PayPal side or the merchants that we're talking to, Matt, there's two big dispute or chargeback reasons in the industry right now. One being item not received, like you're saying, those bad actors that are still coming to the site. They want that product. They ordered it. It got to their door. They're probably using the product, but now they don't want to be charged for it. So item not received. And another one that's big is unauthorized transactions. Maybe saying, hey, my card was stolen, I didn't authorize this, etc. That would be, going into our approach of being reactive to that. Right. So with our chargeback protection, we covered those specific two dispute types, which are the most common that we're seeing in e-commerce today. So, for example, if you opt in and you want to use our chargeback protection risk as a service, you get a chargeback or dispute. It is item not received. As long as you provide us with the proof of delivery, basically saying, Matt, did you ship this order to the shipping address that the customer put on file? Yes, you're covered. No chargeback fee. We're not taking that money out of your account. PayPal is covering you for that transaction, right?
Well, look, PayPal, if I'm not mistaken, PayPal is integrated to USPS, UPS, FedEx, some of the major. So if you're entering your fulfillment,
if you have the API calls correct,
yeah,
it could be
API calls. They can actually validate that the product was delivered or it's in transit or whatever that might be during that dispute process.
Exactly.
Okay. Can a chargeback come in any different way other than through a dispute email?
I mean,
I think
I
think when
think I
someone
know the
just logs into
question.
their account.
Yeah, I was going to say the only other way it could technically come in is if they reach out directly to their card network or provider. So, for
Yeah.
example, if I have a Capital One credit card, but I have it tied to my PayPal account, and instead of disputing it directly through PayPal, I call Capital One. That's another way a dispute or a chargeback could come in. And I'm hoping I'm answering that question correctly. But no, other than that, if they're disputing it through PayPal, you're going to have an email notification come in, and it's also going to open a case inside your business account. Again,
Yes.
giving you that transparent view why this was disputed, what the customer's saying, and giving you the option to go ahead and add evidence to say this is a verified transaction. I did everything right on my side. This card was approved. It's a verified customer. I shipped it to the right address. I should win the chargeback.
Should the merchants be also running like a chargeback mitigation tool such as RDR, CRDN, or Mitigator, or any of those other chargeback wizard?
I never want to say no because again, it's case by case. Maybe we want to do both. If you see a lot of fraud, or you're in an industry that maybe you see a lot of disputes and chargebacks or returns, for example, then maybe you want to run both. In my opinion, our chargeback protection and the service we provide there basically covers you for what these disputes are most commonly seen as, right? Item not received, unauthorized transaction. Now, for example, the third tier of that is item received was not as described. Now, what we typically see there is if somebody's issuing a dispute for that, the merchant has the ability actually to reach out to the consumer and say, hey, what the product was X, what exactly happened to the product in transit? What did it show up as? And usually the merchant and the consumer can work some type of consensus out to say, hey, I'll ship you another one. That's my bad. It got damaged in transit, etc. But again, I think that's more of a conversation we have if I'm doing an evaluation with a merchant where we say, okay, this is what our protection provides. Do you need something above and beyond this? And then maybe we look out to a third party. But I never want to say a definitive answer because it is case by case.
Yeah, and Ryan had mentioned that as long as you have the tracking, you'll win those disputes 99% of the time. So that's a good point, Ryan. But Arshad asked an interesting question on friendly fraud for digital products. What if there's a dispute if someone is doing a digital subscription through PayPal? What type of proof or evidence can you provide that you've provided the service, the client has accessed the service? And I need to talk to you about this also because we get disputes. It's not a lot, but people who've accessed Checkout Champ and our services that are using PayPal as a payment method, I never win those things. So I'm sending them all to you, and I'm going to say reverse these because these assholes have signed contracts and they've provided access. So I think it falls along the same lines of what the last person asked. If you're selling digital products, how does that dispute method work? Do they have to provide evidence that they've accessed the service?
That would be, and I think you hit the nail on the head there with a signed contract, or a lot of the merchants that I work with that specifically sell digital products. What they do is when you get access to that product, that merchant actually has the ability to track how many times you open the link, when you open the link, where you're at, etc. Again, tracking users' ability to use the platform, who's actually running it, who paid for it, maybe is not using it. So usually that data is there, but yes, digital products work a little bit different than something you're actually shipping that's physical. It does get a little bit more cumbersome, to be very straightforward. So I'm going to have that conversation with you, Matt, but yes, we would want to look at a signed contract, maybe see the usage of this consumer on this digital product, etc. That way we can go ahead and fight for you with the card network and say, listen, this is a legitimate transaction. This consumer is actively using the product and I can prove it, or using the digital service if it's that.
That's wonderful. And so then if you win the dispute, this was a question from Lucas again. If you win the dispute, does it still count against your dispute ratio, or does that wipe it clean?
Okay. Wipes it clean. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, so let's
Yeah.
jump back because we prepared a whole bunch of questions for you that I think are pertinent to this, and we're going to go into fraud prevention now. We just talked about chargebacks and
Mhm.
disputes. What types of fraud are you seeing most commonly affect merchants today, and how can we prevent that?
Yeah, it was the two that we were just talking about. The most common ones: item not received and transaction wasn't authorized. So right off the bat, chargeback protection, if we're taking that reactive approach, covers you absolutely for both. Only thing the merchant needs to do is provide POD, which is proof of delivery. So now on the branded side, it's a little bit different, right? You have seller protection on all branded transactions. When I say branded, I mean when you're clicking on a PayPal button, that yellow PayPal button that everyone's familiar with. If you're clicking on that PayPal button and the consumer is using a PayPal account to check out, they're going to have seller protection enabled on that transaction when we accept it. Again, that's going to allow you to go ahead and win those disputes at a higher rate. And that kind of brings me to my next point with some of the new rollouts and new features, Matt, that we alluded to in the beginning of the conversation is one big thing that we're doing to help combat item not received claims is package tracking right inside the PayPal revamped or reimagined app, right? So a consumer and so a consumer is able to come onto the app, they make a purchase through their receipt. They're going to be able to track that package from A to Z. So whether it's not in transit, still at the warehouse, it's in transit and USPS has picked it up, or it's out for delivery or it's delivered. Now, what's also nice, and we'll take it a step further with package tracking, is you
Yep.
also get push notifications to your phone, Apple Watch, Samsung Watch, etc. It provides transparency into where your package is at all times. And with that fact, our data shows that we've been able to reduce item not received claims by 80%. I mean, that's a large number, right? So 80% reduction in item not received claims just by providing transparency into where your package is at all times. You know, we sit back and we're like, that's so simple, but it provides such an impact for our merchants, right? To just show your consumer, hey, it's still at the warehouse, hasn't been shipped out yet. The other thing is with package tracking through that consumer app is we're also seeing an increase by 30% of dispute win rates, right? Because we have that tracking information already. We alluded to that a little bit already, Matt. But yeah, we have that in there, we have the tracking number from one of the major providers. We can do all that very seamlessly for you. So yeah, very good internal data on our package tracking technology right inside the consumer app, where we've been really able to affect that rate for our merchants, where just reducing fraud and item not received claims across the board has helped out a lot.
Okay. And branded checkout, seller protection, package tracking. Yeah, that's good stuff. A question came up a little bit earlier that I want to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you also help people get onboarded with Braintree? And does PPCP effectively replace Braintree, or is that still separate? Or what is your recommendation there?
Good question. Really, the difference in the product is integration. I don't want to say complexity, but integration accessibility. So some platforms right now don't offer PPCP as of yet, right? With that same token, they would offer Braintree. So really going either or. Overall, Matt, yes, I would be able to help set up PayPal accounts or Braintree accounts. Braintree is a PayPal service that is one of our direct credit card processors that we have the ability to leverage depending on the platform, and depending on what the users need. I know one big thing we're seeing right now that will be rolling out with PPCP, not to give too much info there, but on Braintree, one big thing that our merchants love to use is the ACH functionality, right? So if somebody's very heavy with ACH, I may say, let's go with Braintree. I recommend Braintree for this as of right now. Again, soon to be with PPCP, but yes, I can get any of the merchants set up with both accounts, either or, depending on what we're doing. And I'm going to come back to you, Matt. What was the second half of that question?
The second half was, does PPCP effectively replace Braintree now that you can take credit card?
Now, I want to say I can answer that confidently. I don't think I'm in those conversations. I might be a little bit above my pay grade, Matt. But the ideology behind it is yes, PPCP is going to be a one-stop shop integration for all the merchants' needs in terms of local payment methods, alternative payment methods, and now debit and credit card processing. So I say that to say I'm not in those conversations. Will it take over? Will it replace it? Will we still offer both? I'm not entirely sure yet what that landscape looks like, but PPCP is going to be our go-to product as we move into 2025.
Okay. What are some of the key reasons for checkout abandonment, and how can we help merchants reduce that abandonment?
Yeah. So checkout abandonment comes through a couple of different ways. So how we can reduce it, again, we talked a little bit about digital wallets. We talked a little bit about making sure you have a streamlined checkout from A to Z. It's not too many clicks. It doesn't take 4 minutes to get to the checkout page. It takes 30 seconds, etc. And then again, with just that gateway and the authorization rates increasing, we're hoping to do that as well. But overall, with cart abandonment is realistically, do we have a seamless process online to have a landing page, to go to a product, to add multiple products to the cart, and then also have that preferred way to pay? So when it comes to that preferred way to pay, I think I have something cool here for us. Give me a second. I was just looking at some of my notes here. But when it comes to cart abandonment, this is what I wanted to pull up here. In terms of PayPal's branded checkout, when it comes to the PayPal wallet, right? On average, again, according to our internal studies, PayPal helps complete 46% more checkouts than any other payment option, right? At the point of checkout, so when we're on the checkout page. And that's for SMB merchants. Now, if we move into large enterprises, we're actually increasing it by overall checkout conversion by 33%. So again, being that they're inversely correlated, if we're increasing your checkout conversion with some of our digital wallets, we're helping you streamline the way you can actually have your consumers pay. For example, having a PayPal button on a product page or that pay later messaging on a product page, we're increasing that checkout conversion, thus decreasing that cart abandonment.
Well, let's talk about the importance of digital wallets. They're becoming more important in today's e-commerce environment. Are they becoming more important? Is it why would that be the case when you have traditional payment methods? Would you consider PayPal a digital wallet?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And the reason being is it's the sense of security with your data, right? Especially in today's digital world, everybody wants to ensure that their data is secure.
Yeah.
Digital wallets provide exactly that. So that's why they're becoming increasingly more important. The other reason they're becoming increasingly more important is because of how much people are using their mobile devices, iPads, iPhones, Android tablets, etc., to go ahead and actually facilitate the checkout, right? I'm not looking to type in my card to my phone. I'm simply not. People are really ditching the wallet. They're putting everything on their iPhone, on their Android. They're tapping to pay in person. They want to have that flexibility online as well. That's really the reason that digital wallets are becoming more and more important on a daily basis, is that these digital wallets are just getting more and more incorporated into everybody's daily lives, right? If I'm going to the grocery store, I don't bring my wallet. I'm going to tap my phone on the reader there and be able to walk right out with my receipt rather than having to insert the chip, pull the wallet out of my pocket, etc. I probably already have my phone in my hands. And I think a lot of our consumers feel the same way about that, right? They want to have the same experience when they're shopping and they're making purchases in their daily lives as if they were shopping online.
Well, and that goes back to my point. I use PayPal all the time because it reduces a point of friction. I don't want to have to reach in my wallet. Yeah, I may be sitting at a traffic light and I saw something cool pop up and I was like, oh, I got to finish this transaction. I just hit PayPal. I click the code that gets delivered to my SMS and off I go. So
Exactly.
I would agree with that. How can offering digital wallet options boost conversion rates for merchants?
I think I feel some of it is reiterated, Matt. Again,
Yeah.
how fast can we get through the checkout realistically? Being that it's passwordless, I don't need to reset a password if I'm using a PayPal account. Again, if I'm on a mobile device, it makes it super simple. I have the PayPal app downloaded. I'm already logged in. I click on PayPal on the Checkout Champ site. It automatically logs me in. I clicked one thing, looked at one sheet, right, one page on the screen, and said, okay, my shipping is right. I want to use that card, and that's my contact information. Let me pay. Right.
Well,
That's where
and
we're
it's
seeing
even
the
easier.
speed to the checkout.
It's even easier with Fastlane. I've used Fastlane on a couple of the sites that are out there. I mean, I think Fastlane rivals and is superior to Stripe's product Link and Shop Pay. I just like it.
And our ideology with Fastlane is we're providing this expedited checkout process with our digital wallets. Why can't we do that with credit cards or guest customers or guest checkouts, right? So now if you do want to use a credit card, you can have that same experience of a quote unquote one-click checkout experience with still using the card instead of a digital wallet. And going back to the importance of digital wallets, I was looking at Capital One shopping report here. They say by 2026, Matt, the number of global digital wallet users is expected to grow by 53%. It's going to reach 5.2 billion users. That's going to be 60% of the global population that are going to be using digital wallets on a daily basis. If that doesn't shine light on how important it is to have congruency between in-person transactions and e-commerce, I'm not sure what does.
All right, so Charlene asked a question. So the digital wallet, you're gonna activate it. You're gonna open the account on PayPal. You're gonna put in the credentials on Checkout Champ, and it's incredibly easy to install. If you look in our help desk articles, or if you reach out to your account manager, they can help you set it up in just a matter of minutes. Do you think there'll ever be? Yeah, it's very easy. Do you ever think there will be an integration, PayPal with crypto? I mean,
that's a great question as well. So as people may know, if you've been following PayPal in the news with all the new partnerships that we do, and we did come out with a PayPal token as well for crypto. I know there is some conversations about being able to have our merchants accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. So is that in the works? Yes, we have an entire team dedicated to what we're doing with crypto. As I said, we came out with our own crypto coin as well. That's been wildly successful. So yes, is that coming down the pipeline? Again, not really a room that I'm typically in, but once we have that information, we're going to be broadcasting that out, right? So Go ahead and continue to check newsrooms, LinkedIn, social medias, etc. The second that comes out with PayPal, you will be aware of that.
Well, and we'll promote it also. I think it's
exactly,
especially since when former President Trump was at the crypto conference, he said that is going to be a major part of the U.S. economy, which is crypto, which is, I think we're 12 days away. It could potentially be a very viable payment option for everyday purchases. And you can use Apple Pay and Google Pay through PayPal, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that comes back to that all-in-one integration, Matt, right? We don't require you to outsource and say, hey, Apple, I need to set up a merchant services account so I can accept it on my Checkout Champ integration. No.
But if that's the case, do they need, in a lot of integrations that we have for Apple Pay, Google Pay, Apple Pay particularly, you need to go get that particular token.
The domain registration file. Yeah.
Domain registration and put it in. Do you still have to do that and then plug it into Checkout Champ, or is that just done for you on PayPal?
Yeah, we kind of streamline that process as well with the relationship we have with Apple Pay. So right inside the account settings on PayPal, you'll basically be able to pull that domain association file a little bit more automatically than you would so manually. You basically click a few buttons, make sure the right domain is in there, and you're good to go. And again, if anybody is having issues with enabling Apple Pay, has questions on it, hasn't had success with that in the past, reach out to me. Let's do it for you.
Well, I know we're a little bit over time here, but I just want to rip through two more questions that I have for you, and then I'll open it up to you. What strategies can we offer to help merchants increase key e-commerce metrics like conversion rates and average order value?
So one big thing with average order value is going to be that buy now, pay later option, right? Giving your customers the flexibility to go ahead and actually say, I don't need to pay in full for this, right? So the other thing with average order values increasing is how flexible these payment options are. So, right, if you're talking about PayPal, we have 3 different financing options, not just pay in 4, right? Which is 4 interest-free payments. We can extend that out with what's called our pay monthly feature. We can go out to 24 months, right, depending on credit worthiness. So if it is a larger ticket purchase, maybe I'm buying a dirt bike for my son for Christmas and it's $8,000. We're going to be able to finance that $8,000 with PayPal for 24 months. Now we can have that bike there ready for Christmas. So one big thing with AOV there is definitely that, is offering that financing option, which is incredibly simple with our partnership, Matt, right? I mean, it's a few check boxes. Where do you want the messaging? Where do you want the button?
Well, what a great dad. I wish someone was buying me an $8,000 dirt bike. How can how can real-time insights into sales performance improve the merchant's decision making?
So what's cool about PayPal, again, talking about the suite of products, we're not just that yellow PayPal button. We have in-person options, online, alternative payment options. What we do is actually give our merchants insight into their customer demographics. That way they can leverage that data to do retargeted ads, to do marketing, to okay, if I see on this merchant insights tab right inside the PayPal account that pay in four or pay later is a big hit, and I don't have messaging on my product page, I want to do that to increase revenue, right? It gives you these little tactics to say, okay, if my demographic is ages 18 to 30, I want to make sure I'm presenting these alternative payment options that I know this demographic loves to pay with. So it gives you more insight into who your consumers are. That way you can target them correctly. You can give them the preferred payment options that they would like. Again, all in the name of increasing checkout conversion, in the name of increasing average order value.
Great. Well, to the folks that are participating, before we wrap this up, do you have any additional questions you want to drop into the Q&A? I think we did a pretty good job at answering pretty much anything. Greg, do you have any questions, any comments, anything that you want to fire off?
I think I'm good on my side. Let me just take a look. I have a few notes for you, Matt. I might have a question or two just about our partnership and how you feel about it. So let me pull this up. I got too many tabs open, man. That's my problem sometimes.
I know my eyes keep going over because I'm going to different screens and reading my notes.
I think the biggest one that I feel like everyone that is on this call or that's going to listen to the recording may want to understand is why exactly do you consider us such a great partner for e-commerce?
Well, I think you're payment innovative. I think that PayPal has always been, even when they were in their infancy in, supporting just eBay, it was a very easy and secure tool to use. I personally like using it myself when I'm making purchases. Like I said, if someone doesn't have PayPal on their account, I usually think it's a BS company. But
Gotcha.
In terms of the partnership, there's great communication back and forth. Like I said, guys, this isn't just some big faceless company with a bunch of nerdy programmers in the back room trying to figure out how to make stuff work. It's actual people that we converse with on a almost weekly basis, and they're always pushing new products. I mean, you just mentioned crypto. They're working on getting crypto payments, which is going to be massive for the platform. Not every credit card processor can do that. So think about, you have standard PayPal, you have credit card processing, you have Venmo, you have ForPay, and then you throw in crypto, and you're still getting these awesome approval rates. I just think I look at the stats, guys. I look at the data. It outconverts everything. When in terms of approval rate, it outconverts everything. So I just think PayPal is not only a great option for our clients, but I think they're a great partner to check out Champ and our companies.
I'll have one more for you, Matt, before we end here. When it comes to your current merchants that you're working with on a daily basis, right? What are you receiving or in terms of feedback from them on PayPal, the good, the bad, the ugly? What are you hearing from your current merchants about our integration with Checkout Champ and how it's performing?
Well, I know that some of let's call them slightly higher risk merchants have been turned off to PayPal in the past because you were so quick to shut those accounts down. The dispute resolution process was different back then. I'm just wondering if that was the case a few years ago, how has that improved? And is it worth a merchant who may have had a bad experience in the past to test it again? My personal opinion is yes, because I've seen how PayPal has evolved over the years that we've been working with you. I think it's worth testing it. If you're selling a branded product, if you're selling a physical good or subscription product, even on the telemedicine, I would think you want to send in at least an application or talk to Greg to see if you can get it done, because by the mere fact, let's say you take your conversion rate from 91 to 97. Well, that's 6 points. Why wouldn't you want that additional revenue? And rebill rates, even on the best subscription billing merchant accounts, if you look at the Stripes and the Adyens and some of the accounts out there, I mean, you're typically in the 80s. If you're in the 90s on your rebills, why in the world would you not want to do it? I think that categorically speaking, when you look at the verticals that we work with, usually it's physical good products. I get guys selling, POTMs, product of the month. Could be T-shirts, could be decals. Smaller dollar value products to even some of the highest dollar value products like saunas. I mean, I would say highest revenue companies that are on our platform have PayPal.
We're in a lot of different verticals, a lot of different industries. And I guess we can leave it off with just saying PayPal has helped a lot of merchants already to date. And we're just excited to continue to help our merchants thrive and succeed as we go into maybe an unknown economic environment, right? We want to do what's right by you, and we want to help you achieve your e-commerce, in-person, overall business goals and initiatives as we continue to grow with you.
Great. And I have one last question that came through on the Q&A. So anyone that has a PayPal Commerce account right now can accept credit cards, or is there something else that they need to do or no?
Yes. Now, it is typically dependent, Matt, on the platform you're integrating with. If they offer the PayPal Commerce platform, you have the ability to use our advanced debit and credit card processor, simply put.
Great.
Right? So if you have PPCP enabled, let's get you up and running with the full stack solution and get all the benefits that we talked about today right for you.
All right. So guys, I'm going to do a couple of things for you here in the chat. Go into your chat. I'm going to send it out to everyone. I've dropped Greg's email address. I dropped the PayPal link for Fastlane, which is coming out. It's only available in the US right now, but they're eventually going to be in Europe. And then one last announcement before I let you go. Next week on Thursday at this exact same time, we're going to have Damon Wright on, and we're going to be talking about the FTC's new click to cancel ruling and things you can do to prepare yourself for being compliant with click to cancel. Greg, if you have nothing else, those are all the questions I have for you. I want to thank you for your time and being available today. I've only recently met Greg. He seems to be incredibly knowledgeable. I wouldn't think that our relationship management team would have brought him along if he was some type of slouch. So if you have any questions, please hit him up. Even if you want to talk about rate and volumes and things like that, Greg's a good contact. Everyone's just saying thank you for your time and for the information. It's very informative. We appreciate you doing this. Go change your sports coat and your shirt and t-shirt and relax so it matches your shorts.
There you go, Matt. Well, I just want to say the pleasure's mine. I truly appreciate the opportunity to come on here and talk about what PayPal is doing now and looking forward to in the future. And I'll reiterate exactly what Matt said. Any questions, anything that you're looking to have a conversation about, any recommendations you feel like I can provide, please don't hesitate. Send me an email. Let's get something scheduled on the calendar and let's figure this out for you.
If any of you want to watch this again, I'm dropping the YouTube channel link for youtube.com at checkout-champ. We will put this there and you can look at it as many times as you want.
There you go.
Greg's email is for the person that just asked, anonymous attendee. It is the webinar chat. It's galbertson@paypal.com. Can everyone see that? Everyone? Okay. Thank you, Greg. Have a great day, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Matt. You enjoy your day as well, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, everyone. See you soon.
Bye.